Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my top 10 tier 2 players list. These are going to be some more like unknown players. Like I don't really have anybody in tier 1 or that was in tier 1 last year in this list. I'm also not going to be having players like just from NA here. Koala Noob, Nismo, Verno, Brock, Scuba Xander, like players like that everybody knows. I'm gonna be trying to stick more towards the lesser known, and trying to stay away from having a ton of NA players as well. But these are all players that can be in tier 1 next year. I'm not going to be doing any like the age restriction is also for this list. So there's some players that I considered having on this list, like Redux and Bones. Um, Bones is the IGL for, I believe, YFP. He's very good. So is Redux, but they're not going to be on this list as well. But these are also only players that I've gotten to watch so far. So if you have any other players that I should go watch, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to have more like knowledge about these kind of players. I do VOD reviews about all of these players all the time on Twitch, so go follow me on there. My Twitter is in the link is in the description, along with my Twitch. I tweet out when I go live, so go follow both of those and join my Discord, where I also post when I go live, along with like we'll have some occasional conversations about stuff that are going on in Valorant in there. So pretty decent environment. Go check that out if you're interested. I'll also have another link in the description that I'm about to talk about in a second. But before that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. It really helps me out. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So the other link in the description is going to be my Patreon. I'm going to be starting a $1 a month membership where you have access to scouting reports for a bunch of tier 2 players. Let me do that. Stuff like this I made one for Demon 1. It's just like scoring some things out of 10, having a little blurb about it pretty much. I'll probably have like a full like player recap kind of thing. Like his agent pool, like a VCT comp to a player. That would be more like stylistic kind of thing. And just like projecting how good these guys are going to be in tier 1. Originally I did have like a full player grade down here, but it just was a lot to like figure out, like having like, because I did one for a tier 2 duelist and got like an 85, even though Demon 1 was like a 93 or something like that, and that was way too close for me, so I scrapped that. I might try to do it again at some point, but right now this is public, so you can go check this out if you want, if you're interested in any of that. I do not have any up currently. I'm going to be trying to get some out for some Turkish players that I've watched, maybe some NA as well. But the NA like actually challenger stuff hasn't started yet, like the group stage thing. So I don't think I'm gonna do too much until then. So, but yeah, go check this out if you're interested. Only $1 a month. I know people don't like paying for things in esports, but I do think this is very informative and is worth $1 a month for potentially like, I don't know, like I'll probably have at least 15 players per region. So like 15 Americas, 15 EMEA, 15 Pacific. I will probably have more than that. But yeah, if you're interested, go check that out. And yeah, let's get right into the top 10 list. So we're going to start here with our first 2 NA players. We'll talk about Penny first, who for a long time has been one of my favorite duelist players. He's been locked in like flex jail. Was on that V1 team that made Iceland, was a big reason why they did so well. He was so good at that tournament and still was very good when V1 was doing really well in that group stage for NA, and even they didn't do terrible in playoffs. Like obviously they were a lot worse than expectations. And they choked and also got like unlucky with the teams that they played against. But yeah, V1 was probably my favorite roster of all time. With Vanity, with Zelsis, with Penny, all those guys. I love those guys. And yeah, I just think Penny's a super skilled player, one of the best oppers in NA tier 2. And now that he's back on Duelist, should get a very good shot at getting back into partnerships. Um, I just think he's been so underrated for so long. He's been locked on roles that he really shouldn't be playing. Like when V1 started doing bad in 2022, it was because he got thrown on flex and wasn't able to play like the chamber, the jet, the raise that he's really, really good at. Um, and I think this year we're going to actually see how good he is now on those roles. I don't know if he's going to be exactly in that Iceland form, but if he can get back to that kind of player, he's easily a tier one player. I think he's got better entering than quite a couple tier one players. Better opper than a lot of them. I think he'd be like a top 7 opper in Americas, which doesn't sound that high, but when you think about it, is better than a lot of very good players. Um, but yeah. Other than that, I don't have too much to say on Penny since I haven't watched a ton of his games. I won't lie. I just watched like a little bit of these like open qualifier games, but I'm really looking forward to watching a lot more of him once the group stage comes around. And now onto my second and last NA player. I didn't want to make this list too NA centric, just because that's the region I know the most about. So I kind of just wanted to leave it like a little bit shorter, but I could not leave Laya out of this list. Just as an IGL, straight up, one of the best in tier two. I think you're going with like maybe Nitro. No, I'd go with him over Nitro. But like it's between him, Mitch, Nitro, and I'd probably take him over both of those other two IGLs. Led MXS to being like the third best team in Tier 2 NA. A very good team at that. I don't think they were quite on par with the M80s or the G2 slash guards of the world. But they were still a very, very good team. And I think he's going to lead them to have a lot of stability this year, just being super consistent, a lot more than last year. And honestly, for an IGL, he's a very, very good individual player. He led all of Tier 2 NA in stats and Split 2 last year. Just a ridiculous player for an IGL. Obviously, he's not quite in that form as much anymore, but still has been a very solid individual. Obviously, his stats haven't been as good, I won't lie. But I think if he can just any game have that performance, that kind of performance, I think MXS should be set up to be making it through in Ascension. I think they're again one of 3 teams that could really do it, in my opinion. I don't think YFP is quite there with the rest of their roster. I just think they're a little bit too young, but it's possible. I think Oxygen and M80 are also just 2 very good teams. And overall, I was shocked that Flya was not picked up into Tier 1 last year. It just made so much sense to me. He's such a flexible player. He can play like Sentinel, he can play Flex, he can play Initiator. He can play literally whatever you need him to play, pretty much. I think he could probably play Smokes, like he's played the Viper here and there. I mean, he's played a lot of it recently, but yeah, he's played a lot of that stuff in the past, like Sentinel and Initiator. He played on Phase, all that kind of stuff. Just a really, really, really good player, and I think he would fit onto a lot of Tier 1 teams, and I just don't think he quite got the recognition that he deserved from the Tier 1 teams last year. And now we have Swag, or as originally I saw his like name in game as Swagetsu, which I think is just a sick name regardless. But yeah, I was super impressed by him when I watched him in this Meg tournament. I think it was this one. Yeah. There aren't any public VODs, by the way, so I can't do the like gameplay background for him. But yeah, I just thought he was like, at least stylistically, a lot like maybe some combination of Sugetsu and less. I know he won't ever be that kind of player, I don't think. I mean, he could be. I'm all for that. But I just think like watching him play, you can see like how he can be used very well, like in a good system, and how like solid and good of a Sentinel player he is. He's just super round around consistent. He did not put up the biggest stats in this tournament. Like you got bottom frag there, uh, bottom frag there. Like I don't know. I just like looking back at the stats now. He did not statistically play that well, but I was super impressed while watching him. I think it's a big thing. Like stats don't matter. He'll be on Legacy, I believe, who is going to be playing in Tier 2. Yeah, so I'll be able to watch that. I might change my mind completely on him. I might think he's bad when I watch him again. Um, but I was also just really impressed with this XIT team in general. So I think the whole team is getting signed to Legacy. Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the whole team. I also like Gobera. Didn't make the list here, um, but yeah, just a very good team. And Swagetsu is kind of the centerpiece of that, and I was really impressed by him. So now onto my last Americas and last Brazilian player. We have Osia, who, I mean, just was the first dead there, which is kind of funny. But also, why is the VOD freezing? Interesting. Um, but talking about like comps being like mini players, like comparisons for these tier 2 players into tier 1 players, Oskia, the second I watched him, he is a mini Ospas. Um, like just the way he uses the jet utility, you can tell he watches a lot of Ospas, is like looks up to him, that kind of stuff. Um, and is just like a really big fan of Aspas. And I think a lot of the Brazilian tier 2 duelists probably are. Um, but Aspas is a very, very good player to copy. Just stylistically, I think he's very good with all of the jet movement, with all of like the opping, just the angles he takes, everything like that. I think Oskia does a lot of the same stuff. Obviously, he's not quite there with Aspas, just because Aspas is Aspas. Everybody knows how good Aspas is. I'm saying his name way too much right now. It's kind of losing its meaning. Yeah, Askia, I was shocked that he did not get picked up. I thought he was a better duelist than Artscene. I still think he's a better duelist than MW. Easily a better jet. Um, and yeah, I think it was kind of a travesty that he didn't get picked up. But he's going to be running it back with this Union team. I believe it's a very similar lineup, if not the same one. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to fact check that. But still with Rafa, still with Goo. I believe with Punk, who is a piece of shit. Um, so is NTK, but I don't think NTK is on this team. I could be wrong. But yeah, regardless, very, very good player. Should be a name to look out for in tier 2. Again, I haven't watched any VODs of him this year yet because there hasn't been any Brazilian tier 2 challengers, but I did watch a lot of him at Ascension and was extremely impressed. And now onto some of my EMEA players, where we're going to start with Sociable from Fireflux. He was one of the players that I was most impressed with. Super flexible, can play like Raze, Yoru. He played some Sova. He's played Omen. He's played, I mean, just so much stuff. I think he could probably play the KO in the sky pretty easily. Just a super flexible player. And I believe this might have changed since the last time I checked. I know they just played a game this morning as I'm recording this. Recording this on the 11th. But leads all of Turkish tier 2 in stats. And now that I'm looking at it, all 3 of my EMEA players are Turkish players because I haven't really watched any other regions too much. I got to get to that. But like, I don't know, he's just so consistently good, doesn't really make too many bad plays, is very, very, very good with his utility. I was really impressed with his Sova and Ascent specifically. Just his like shock dart usage, his recons were all very good. Along with his drones, just very like methodical with his util. Maybe not methodical, but like purposeful with his util. His Yoru, I'm not the biggest Yoru guy. I think he's very good on Breeze. I think he's really good on Bind. So I haven't watched enough Yoru to like be able to really think about Yoru util. Um, like just be like, oh, that's really good Yoru utility usage, unless I'm watching tens because tens is the best of it. Um, but like he's very good at that, I think. I mean, he dropped 25 in this game and was just really dominant. He can op. His raise is also very good. As I said, he played it. Um, I think his raise utility specifically was some of the best I've seen. Period. So that's a really good sign. And yeah, I just think he can play so many different things that you can pick him up and put him on whatever, and it'll be fine. Now, he is the IGL of this team of Fireflux, and I don't think they were particularly great in terms of like mid rounding and calling. So I'm not super big on putting him on a role like that. Um, I just bring him in and make him a fragger pretty much. Just like put him on initiator, put him on duelist, put him on whatever, but not do not put him on IGL. Make somebody else do that because there are definitely better options in Turkey for that, even though they're not exactly swimming with IGLs. And now we have a player that I do really think you can compare it to less. Is Kankan. He is a Sentinel player for whatever this team is. I don't, or the attacking team. I don't remember the actual name of the team. But I remember originally noticing him in EMEA Ascension last year and getting to watch quite a few games of him this year. I was still very impressed. I think he's continued that form of just being so consistent with his aim, never losing a fight that he should win. Um, just, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but he really just feels like less. Personally, I just don't get how BBL decided that Elite was a better player than this guy. Um, I think he's probably the third best Turkish Sentinel behind Alfier and Yedije, which you'd think he would just go to the Turkish team that is in franchising. Maybe he declined to go to the team or something like that. Um, but yeah, he's just so good. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get into tier one next year, as long as he continues this form. Obviously, if he falls off, then he's not going to get picked up or anything like that. Um, but just an amazing player that should continue to dominate this year. And we'll get onto a Turkish team next year, barring his team ascending, I believe. All right, and now on to our final EMEA player here, where we have Sterben. I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce it. He's a smokes player for uh, Supermassive, Para Supermassive, Supermassive Blaze, whatever you want to call him. And while this guy is not the biggest fragger in the world, I'll say that he's not like going to be your Marv style player or your even like a Pancata style player. He's just going to be your very solid like supportive util kind of player where he's really good at using his smokes for his teammates. He can flash for his teammates, and he's not a bad fragger by any means either. He reminds me a lot of Grabinho, who I know a lot of people are probably not going to be super high on because he's coming in kind of last minute for Koi, but I was actually fairly impressed when I ended up watching him. Um, but like he's in that like obviously he's not as good as Mako, but he's in that style of Mako, like where like he can frag, he can do all that kind of stuff, and also his util is top notch. Like I don't think he's going to be able to compete with the top Smokes players in Pacific, like Ada Captain, Boaster, and Mystic, but I think he's in that like second tier maybe, along with like as I said, Grabinho. I forget who else I put in that tier, but just a very very solid Smokes player, and I really think this guy should be picked up. Yeah, I don't really have a ton else to say just because he's just solid. He's not going to blow you away, but like every game he gets like 14 kills, 15 kills. He can even go like range up to like 20, maybe like 23, just for that like for the people that pay attention to stats, which really isn't me, but yeah, he'll do good every game, and that's about what you'll get from him. He won't be incredible, he won't be terrible, just good. And then onto our first Pacific player here, we have Famous. from Boom. Now, I haven't watched any of him this year because Boom hasn't played any games this year, as you can see by this Viper comp being here with the Sky, which is kind of, I mean, I guess even them playing Haven isn't like super recent. But yeah, I think Famous at Ascension last year was one of the best duelists. Probably probably third behind Jemkin and oh my god, and Juicy. Yeah, that was the bleed guy. I completely forgot even the team for a second. But yeah, he was just. I mean, he can play both duelists. He can enter really well. His opping is good. He's just a really really solid all around duelist. That I think would make a good addition to a lot of franchise teams, at least the APAC teams. I mean, a lot of the APAC duelists I'm actually pretty high on, like Governor. I really like. Who else? Actually, I can literally just pull up the list right here. Like Jeremy, I like a lot. I like Jemkin a lot. I think he's better, obviously, as I just said. I mean, Ye is probably better right now. Um, and yeah, I think he would be an easy addition to Global. Um, I'd probably have him over Governor right now, just because Governor's fairly unproven. I mean, Famous isn't exactly the most proven player, but I do think he is very, very good on the Jet and on the Rays. And I think, as I said, he would make a very good addition to a team. And I think Boom actually does have a very, very good chance of ascending this year in Pacific. And then now, last up, we have two Japanese players here. We're going to start with CLZ, the flex player for Fennel. Um, he was playing Duelist a lot last year when I watched him, and my first thought was this guy needs to play flex, and this like suit Suta guy, Asuta, however the hell you want to say that. Um, I had him as a duelist player. Like I think that would be his ideal scenario. And they swapped those roles here, which I thought was really funny. Um, but yeah, CLZ, his aim and mechanics are so good on the flex, and I think it's a big upgrade over a lot of players. I think like right now, watching some of these players, I'm like thinking about how it would like what teams I would put them on and how they would fit into rebuild videos. And I don't know enough about Uran to say that he should be dropped yet, but my God, if they got CLZ instead of Uran, that team would be unbelievable. You'd you'd have talent across the board, all Japanese talent, everything like that. I haven't watched enough of CLZ's games to kind of dive into like how good he is with utility and everything like that. But what I do know is his mechanics are top notch, and he has a really really high ceiling as a player. And I think the more experience he gets on flex and challengers this year, the more likely he is to get up into maybe a franchise caliber player if he isn't already. Obviously, this is like very early season stuff, so a lot of my opinions on these players can change, including CLZ. But for right now, I do think he's one of my favorite players in Japan. But this next guy I do like a lot better, just because he's one of my favorite players in all of any tier two league. And then, as I said, last up here we have Tonbo, who I originally found in the open qualifiers for Red Bull Homeground, like the offseason tournament this year. And I was super impressed. He was farming on the fade and everything like that. He was just so incredible at that tournament, just winning like every clutch. And coming into this, I had those really high expectations, and he has delivered. Um, yeah, he's just like his mechanics are unbelievable. Like some of the best out of every initiator player I've watched, at least in tier two. Like he's up there with like Verno and Brock in terms of mechanics. Now, there is a little bit to be like worked on with the util, at least, because like when I was watching him on Ascent, a lot of times he would dart and then like 5 seconds later he'd drone through B main after he didn't get any tags. And it just wasn't like it just felt like he was using a lot of his util too quickly and too early in the round. But I think that is kind of a symptom of the Japanese teams being a little bit more fast paced and like, oh, we're just gonna rush a site, rush a site, rush a site, rush a site, which was what I was noticing in a lot of their games um, this year. I think he'll improve on that. At least once they get into like once he gets into like a franchise team, and I'd expect him to um, next year. But yeah, I'm super high on Tombo. I think he should be on some kind of Japanese team next year, whether it be Detonation, whether it be Zeta. I think if he gets on Zeta, it would be like moving Hero Run to Flex, dropping Uran. Then again, Uran could play very well. Just don't know. Um, a lot of it is again unknown right now, but overall, I do really like all 10 of these players. Let me know what you thought of this list in the comments below, and yeah, uh, let me know the players that you're excited to watch in Tier 2 this year. It can be agreeing with the players I've listed here, or adding some more, or even just talking about the players that I said that like are too well known to be on this list, kind of thing. But yeah, let me know. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the Patreon, of that idea, and everything like that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.